First for you this hour, then, Israeli airstrikes killed at least 130 people across the Gaza Strip on Sunday alone. That heavy toll came even after local health officials said that nearly 500 people had been killed across the territory over the past several days. Still, the Israeli military Sunday even further expanded its offensive, announcing extensive ground operations across northern and southern Gaza in a campaign that it's dubbed Operation Gideon's Chariots. Meanwhile, both sides said that indirect talks between Israel and Hamas in Doha have brought little progress. Benjamin Netanyahu's office saying that ending the war must include the full demilitarization of the Gaza Strip as well as the exile of Hamas militants. For more on this, we're going to cross now to our correspondent in Jerusalem, Noga Tarnopolsky. Hi, Noga. So what do you make of this announcement, in any case, of an expanded ground operation?
Well, it definitely follows up on what the Israeli government has been warning, but I think we have to be cautious for now. We have yet to hear reports of columns of Israeli tanks entering Gaza or of a massive deployment of troops. So I think we have to watch out because the Israeli government announced this new operation, Gideon's Chariots, and named it even before Donald Trump even came to the Middle East. So we may be seeing the start of a vast new Israeli ground operation in Gaza, but we may also be simply facing a sort of a feint, a kind of menacing announcement by the Israeli government meant to impact the talks that are ongoing in Doha. I think we're just going to have to wait at least for an hour or two or three and see what's actually happening on the ground.
So earlier today, Noga, Benjamin Netanyahu's office said that for the first time, talks in Doha now include ending the war. And that came even as both sides also said there's essentially been little progress. Benjamin Netanyahu also reiterating some of the conditions for a ceasefire, including the total demilitarization of Hamas, which in the past, obviously, the militant group has refused. So where does that leave the peace process?
Well, I don't know if we could talk about a peace process right now. Hamas and Israel are basically both stuck in their positions. Hamas has accepted basically a sort of demilitarization and has reiteratedly accepted losing power in Gaza, allowing another Palestinian force to take over in Gaza. The Israeli government refuses for now to name any entity that it would accept instead of Hamas in Gaza, and so that's one of the reasons there have been so many concerns that Israel may be planning a long-term military occupation. But I have to say that the messages we're hearing out of Doha are very, very mixed. There have been hints, as you say, of not much progress, but there are also similar leaks indicating that the United States is exerting extraordinary force on both sides and that some progress is being made. Yesterday, there was a leak for the first time of an outline of a possible ceasefire, not end of war, but ceasefire agreement that would involve the initial release of just 10 Israeli living hostages, leaving at least 10 more there to fester for another 2 months or so, and about a 2-month ceasefire. But the fact of the matter is that there are important indications of massive U.S. pressure to find a way to end this war. And the major indication of that is what you quoted earlier. In other words, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, for the first time, admitting in public that there are talks underway to end this war.
Finally, Noga, I mean, something that's prompted reactions from a series of international leaders over the past week or so, including leaders that have been quite reticent to criticize the Israeli government in recent months, is in part because of the massive scale of death that we've seen in Gaza. We know that Sunday alone, at least 130 people were killed. That comes on top of nearly 500 deaths over the past 4 to 5 days, which had been announced by local health authorities earlier. It seems that the Israeli government has really been quite mute on the extensive scale of death. I mean, what are some of the reactions that you've seen in Israel to that?
Right. So the Israeli government and the Israeli army, apparently under orders of the government, have chosen a strategy of just not saying anything. And today, a member of the government, the Likud's Amit Halevi, a member of the Knesset's very powerful Foreign Affairs and Security Committee, when asked of this question in public, said there's no humanitarian crisis. This is still the official Israeli line. But behind the scenes, it is a much more complicated panorama. We saw a few days ago the Israeli army basically using the New York Times to say that it was aware that a crisis of hunger, of famine, is quickly approaching in Gaza, and so that is a conflict. And today, for example, there was public questions by Igal Guetta, who I'd like to quote. He's a former right-wing legislator, former ally of Prime Minister Netanyahu, who today has a news radio program at drive time, and asking Likud representative, he said, "What do you mean 800 targets in Gaza? Who are you bombing? Where is this going?" And so there are cracks even within the ideological base of Prime Minister Netanyahu, if not his electoral base. And we have to say there have also been important rumors, more than rumors today, that Israel is going to accept the American demand to allow again humanitarian aid into Gaza after a complete blockade of about 3 months. Despite the fact, I have to say this, that if that does happen, Prime Minister Netanyahu could lose important members of his coalition.
Noga Tarnopolsky, we'll see where this all takes us then in the coming days. Thank you very much.